Prominent Trump ally Congressman Matt Gaetz continues to play defense in a scandal involving reports of prostitution, sex trafficking, and possible sexual acts with minors. Congressman Gaetz has denied all wrongdoing, and he did a damage control interview on Fox News that Fox's Tucker Carlson called one of the weirdest interviews of his career. And now there's more. The Republican congressman is trying to come out publicly and make it clear that he is, quote, absolutely not resigning. He says these charges are false and specifically denies that he ever, quote, paid for sex or slept with a 17-year-old, end quote. Gaetz also uses this as a time to add that he does expect more leaks from the investigation, which he referred to as stemming from the, quote, corrupt Justice Department. This probe actually began when the DOJ was under Republican control, reportedly signed off by Trump DOJ AG Bill Barr himself. And while Gaetz may try to turn this into some sort of partisan brawl, very few Republicans have been coming to his public defense lately. Gaetz's own former staffers are speaking out on his behalf, one attacking the probe while conceding they don't know the facts involved.
What of the investigation do you know that can lead you to would lead you to discredit the investigation?
I don't have any specific knowledge on the investigation or any of the facts that are involved with the investigation.
I'm joined now by a former acting Solicitor General for the Obama administration, Neil Katyal. Neil, this is a scandal here. It appears even before there are charges against Congressman Gaetz, other individuals, as we've reported, have faced scrutiny and indictment. What do you see in his response today, and where would this likely go based on your knowledge of these probes in general?
Well, I mean, the accusations suggest to me that the congressman from Florida has learned a wee bit too much from Donald Trump. He's, of course, innocent until proven guilty, and no one should rush to judgment. And so in that sense, I agree with that one point in his article. But having said that, you know, precisely because he's innocent until proven guilty, what in the world is he doing talking to Tucker Carlson and writing this ridiculous op-ed? I mean, at one point he says the girl doesn't exist. Then he says Tucker Carlson met her. Another point he says these allegations are about one girl, but then later he says it's about multiple. I mean, we're not exactly dealing with Albert Einstein here. And so my strong advice to him, my professional advice, is to shut up. I mean, you know, and there's been this demonstrates there's been a culture of impunity around the Republicans over the last several years. They thought they could get away with anything, but there's a real Justice Department now, and they can't. And you mentioned that article that he wrote, the op-ed in his defense, and the two words you don't see anywhere in that article are Bill Barr. This investigation was opened by Bill Barr. He thought it was credible enough to continue the investigation. This is not a guy who was shy about shutting down investigations against Republicans. Bill Barr did repeatedly, but even he kept this thing going. And now it's under Merrick Garland's control. And I don't think there's anyone more fair or honest than Merrick Garland.
Yeah, and as you say, it really does have that Trumpian echo. And it's, I suppose, a bit of a testing ground for how the system, by which I mean the Justice Department, but also everything else around the institution, deals with these things, because he's doing a witch hunt playbook. Reading again, as you mentioned from the op-ed, he says, quote, "I'm sure some partisan crooks in Merrick Garland's Justice Department want to pervert the truth and the law to go after me. I will not be intimidated or extorted." Again, as you say, and we've reported, he's legally innocent. He has not been charged. But if he thinks the facts will acquit him, then obviously you can move forward in that standing. He sounds more like someone who's girding for a bigger battle with the Garland Justice Department. If he thought they were going to say, hey, we didn't find anything here, we looked into it, he wouldn't need to criticize them. And so what do you make of where the Republican Party has to line up here, given the Trumpian playbook that's being trotted out again?
Yeah, or you referred to this having a Trumpian echo, and that's true in a sense, but it's also not true in a sense. I mean, even Donald Trump is not defending Matt Gaetz right now. And Donald Trump is so desperate for attention, he stuffed an entire Twitter thread on the 2020 election into his Easter tweet, or his Easter statement. So, you know, I think it is pretty remarkable here. And I think it's really hard to attack Merrick Garland. I mean, they can try, but honestly, if I were accused of a crime, the prosecutor I'd want is Merrick Garland. He's balanced, he's fair, he has the respect of every conservative jurist in this nation. I mean, every serious conservative jurist. So, this isn't like you can, run the same playbook and the same kind of attack machines. And, the fact is these crimes are serious that he's been charged with. I mean, Section 2423, which involves bringing a minor or traveling for sexual intercourse with a minor, has a punishment of 30 years. And, sometimes the personal is not political, but here I think Gaetz faces a problem because he was the only member of Congress to vote against a bill that bolstered human trafficking investigations. And I don't think you have to be a member of QAnon to connect some dots with that one.
And what do you think about him more broadly, the way he's conducted himself in Congress? Because this is someone who really was of the school of using the government post to try to go on Fox News and right-wing media. We showed him with the gas mask, a protest of masking in the early COVID era that didn't age well. And there were so many other things. And I wonder how investigators parcel this out. Obviously, his political views are protected and they are what they are. But the notion that he was a person who seemed to be acting reckless, making a spectacle, how, if at all, do they look at the facts of how he's conducted himself, if any of that relates to the conduct under scrutiny in Florida?
Well, I mean, Congressman Gaetz has not exactly distinguished himself as a serious member of Congress. I mean, he is most famous for wearing, as you say, that gas mask. But having said that, I don't think the Justice Department should consider that in any way, shape, or form, and I don't think they will. He'll be treated just like everyone else. If he really did cross state lines to do the things he's possibly accused of doing, then he'll face the same punishment as everyone else who's accused of that. That's the beauty of the rule of law under an administration that actually applies it even-handedly. And I know, we're just into the first days of this administration, but this team at the Justice Department, I have full confidence in that they're going to do the right thing, whatever that is. It might be that he didn't do it, and then they would, I don't doubt for a second that Merrick Garland would end this prosecution.
Right, and I appreciate your measured point there, which is good for everyone to keep in mind. We all have the right to our opinions. The fact that someone may be a really annoying troll is separate from the legal process that they're entitled, and we'll see where that goes. Neil Katyal, good to have you as always. I want to remind everyone you can go to msnbc.com/opening arguments for this and other segments that we get from Neil. We call it Law School on the Fly. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.